with the community.
Hey everybody, happy Tuesday.
Happy Tuesday. Happy post-apocalyptic
I
eye in the sky type of situation.
don't know that it was like that, but
It was not like that at all. But that's how they talked about it, as per usual.
It is. I mean, it's very cool. Like the experience of just watching this thing, and I think part of reading like through Body Problem and like having that viewpoint of stars and galaxies and like how it's all orchestrated and moves. It's just, I don't know. Sometimes when you observe it all, it's just absolutely wild. I had a conversation with my cousin this weekend, and we were just talking about the immensity of space. And I don't know if you guys saw that video, but if anyone has any idea, like how fast does light travel, bro? Do you know this? How fast does light travel around the Earth? Like at light speed, how long would it take light to travel around the Earth at light speed?
It probably travels many times around it per second. I would say, guess like 20 or 30 times per second.
So 7 times per second.
Yeah.
Around the Earth. So it's just like, so you're like, okay, 7 times per second, right? So one light year is 9.88 trillion miles.
Yeah. I think I saw a stat about like how long it would take just to exit the Milky Way at the speed of light, and it's something in like the thousands of years. I think maybe even more. I think it was like 6,000 years or something to exit the Milky Way, even at light speed.
It like the absurdity of all this stuff, and so it's like when your brain can't even rationalize it. No. So then you kind of like from that world, and then like these two things, like these two rocks, right, somehow perfectly cross each other, so it fits in this perfect circle, and we're on this thing,
right? Being
able to, like, when you just, I don't know, to me it's like mind-boggling.
It also doesn't make sense because the distance, they appear to be the same size, where clearly the distance of the sun is way further and it's significantly bigger, but somehow perfection, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like,
and that's why there's some theories that the moon was placed and was not always there because of like the how its distance doesn't even make sense naturally or something like that. Anyway, I watched it on NASA, and I watched the commentators who are, I mean, God bless them, have to commentate a moon moving in front of the sun. And like, I'm sure it's unbelievable to see in person, but it was kind of like it was like listening to like real science nerds like have a moment, and then like trying to fill this space. I'm like, you don't need to fill the space with talk. You just need to shut up and let
just let us watch this thing.
But I watched it a number of times, and it's absolutely stunning. And I hope I get to see that with my eyes one day.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it just, I don't know. Again, part of me is like, reading that book, and he talks a lot about space and aliens and this and that and like future, and I'm reading one of his books that has like short stories, and it talks about this race of beings who are like, God knows how many millennia into the future from where we are today. And they have been fighting this interplanetary massive wars. Like, where like 10 million ships are like just blasting and destroying stars and like annihilating. And then they come to Earth, and they find Earth, and they find intelligent beings on Earth. And they're like, wow, look at these beings. Like, they're amazed at what we've been able to create without, they're like, wait, they don't have memory. Like, how we learn,
pass the memory forward. Yeah.
We don't remember what we had before, and like everything is passed down. And so they're talking, and they're like, wait, how did they figure all this stuff out? Like, what kind of memory? It's like, no. They lose their memory every single time. They're like, wait, they what? with communication skills must be out of this world. And they're like, no, they actually have this vibrational cord that hits sound waves at this thing. And they're like, and what does it transfer at? They're like 10 bits per second. They're like 10 bits per second. Like, how did they get to where they got to? Like, this like archaic being. And then they kind of talk about the math of like how long it would take for us to be able to interplanetary communication, and then interplanetary, and basically came out to like, we're like 10 million years from being able to do what these highly evolved beings are. And it was just really cool to get how even they were looking down, they're like, this is an anomaly, like we need to study this. And so anyway, it was very cool.
Yeah. For contrast, or for context rather, if you're on Netflix, there's a show right now called The 3-Body Problem. But Elon finished the entire series. It's a quite extensive novels of, and you have to enjoy sci-fi, but honestly, even if you don't really enjoy sci-fi, like you would very much like these books. What's unique about it is it's written by a Chinese author. And I'm almost done with the second novel. I read the first one during COVID years ago, and then I just never continued it. But as Netflix started approaching with the miniseries, I was like, okay, I want to read the novels before the series goes live. And I'm very happy I did, because the people who are watching the series absolutely love it. But as you know, when you read the book, the series are like meh in comparison. And even the series, as cool as it is really meh in comparison to these novels. So they're really, really good. Definitely worth reading. And the articulation, the writing style, the creation of what this individual has done with this series of books is really, really something extraordinarily special. And I've read a lot of novels and sci-fi novels over the years, and it's right up there with the best of the best. So highly recommended. But Elon's reading I guess like a series of short stories. This person
I guess it's like I didn't know until I started reading the book. It's short stories. And what's fascinating with short stories, I haven't read short stories in God knows how long. To me, honestly, like I've read a lot. One of the most incredible writers, period. And so I said, like, even if you like sci-fi or don't like sci-fi, I think as far as someone who writes, it's right in my wheelhouse. Like I don't appreciate people who write to try to sound overly smart or like describe a flower for 4 pages. And you're like, dude, get on with the fucking story, man. Like, I get it, but like, So this person, to me, kind of is in that like perfect pocket for me, where it's like paints worlds and takes you into these incredible, like you lose yourself in this world. And just beautiful writer. So when he's writing short stories, I'd imagine, like as I'm reading it, it's almost like getting a snippet into the mind of how they find content to expand upon. But it's like the musings of a writer, and like this idea and this idea and this idea and this idea. And you can kind of see parallel lines between them. But damn, what a mind this man has. Like to look into the future. And
are you sure it's a man, by the way?
Yeah. I thought it was a woman for a long time, just honestly, mostly because of the way that it was written. I just assumed it was a woman. I don't know why. And
there are I thought it was a woman too, actually. And there are there's stories within stories in this book. I mean, like it goes on really beautiful explorations and philosophy in an extremely difficult situation. Like for those of you guys that are watching the Netflix series or have read these books, you know how complex the situation that they're in is. And I mean, the books go out, hundreds of years into the future, and this exploration that humanity has to deal with this extremely difficult situation of existential threat, and how they do that, and how people come together, and the different cycles of evolution that human beings go through. I could talk to you about it for hours. I just read like an insane scene the other day, and I really wanted to tell you about it because I'm like, oh my God, but we won't bother on the podcast here. So let's kind of dive into it. Elon wanted to bring something through. He's been on calls with a lot of people for the last few months. And so he just said that there's kind of like this pattern he's been noticing, and wanted to bring that through. So I'll kind of give him the stage here to do that.
Yeah, again, I've been privileged and lucky to have conversations with people who are like looking to join different programs that we have, and I keep noticing an internal battle, and we've probably spoken about it in one way, shape, or form before. It just I'm very present to it now, and I think a lot of it probably has to do with what's happening on the planet, or in the cosmos, or whatever the fuck this thing is that we're a part of. It's like so hard to explain.
Whatever matrix we signed up to be in.
Yeah, I don't know. We could be in a fucking game for all I know.
Likely.
There is an internal battle that I continuously see between someone's soul and their soul's desire and their mind. And what I continuously see, and this is again just my musings, and take it from someone who's been working with tens of thousands of people over the last decade and a half, coaching and just really diving deep with people. I notice that between the age of 30 and 60, our soul's desire becomes louder and louder and louder. And what that looks like is when we are like younger, I think there's this idealistic, I'm going to build this and I'm going to do that and blah, blah, blah. And a lot of that concept comes from wanting a certain lifestyle, wanting a certain level of security, financial, career, programs of, this is what it looks like to be successful. This is what it looks like. And these are the things that we need to do in order to live like a whole life, whether it's have a family, get married, buy a house, buy a vacation home, buy the nice car, like all these programmatic things that we go after blindly. And as we get older, what I'm noticing is there's a heart's desire. And most people that I know find us like in this community, I tell everyone this, like when I get on the phone with them, I don't believe in accidents. So when someone ends up on a call with me, I know that there's an absolute reason why they're on the call. My job, the way I look at it, is to help that being uncover why they're here. That's kind of how I look at our conversation. It's not for me to tell them about this program or that program. It's literally like to find this community and to find Satori Prime and to find Guy and I, the amount of stories that I hear you guys share with me of how you found us and how you ended up in our world. Like the stories are insane, too insane to think that this all happened by happenstance. And so I noticed this theme that souls, like, right, we call this old souls and seekers, like the souls that find their way to us come here because there's something that your soul is desiring that you have been turning away from in pursuit of the logical, linear, make sense, whatever that life has programmed into you. And what keeps people up at night, or what keeps people tired, or what keeps people in a state of procrastination or confusion or even self-sabotage is that your soul's desire, which is guided by your heart in human form, right? Like your heart and soul's desire is wanting some sort of experience for you in your life. And for a while, it just kind of sits on the back burner and lets you do your thing and lets you kind of, do your human and blah, blah, blah. And then, and you guys tell me if I'm off base, or like if you resonate with this, like it starts getting louder. And it's like, hey, like enough of this, focus on here. And then you'll listen for a second, but the heart's desire and the thing that your soul wants terrifies your mind. They are not in alignment on this at all. They are like in two different galaxies.
Echelons, yeah.
Like so far apart. And I have these conversations with people, and what I notice is in the conversation, they awaken and they start to really feel, because I slow down and I really let them feel the experience of that soul's desire. I let them feel their heart like opening and singing and vibrating yes to whatever that future might be. And then when we create like an action plan, right? Because I kind of look at myself as like, okay, if I'm a spiritual doctor of sorts, right? Like here's the symptom, here's what you want, and here's the action step to get there. And what always happens is when you talk about like the action of what it would take to actually put yourself on the path of your soul's desire, instantly, like in a nanosecond, the mind comes in and goes, no, I don't want that. No, that's so scary. Well, what about this? And what about that? And what about this? And what about that? And something that I notice time and time and time again is this. This is exactly the thing that stops every single one of us dead in our tracks time and time again, because the mind knows you so intricately well. It knows if I push this button and this button and this button in this certain sequence, Zoe or Alex or Andrea or Veronique or whoever it is going to stop dead in their track and going to run the other way, because I just know this is what I need to do. And then it stops. And that happens in your life until you, in that moment, take new and decisive action. And this is the part that scares the shit out of the mind. And what I hope to impart in these sessions is not to fight the mind. Like, that's always going to be there. Always. Guy and I have been doing this for 20 years. If you ask us about any investment that we've made in ourselves, any person that we've brought on, any shift that we've created in our business, every single step that separates from the norm or like what's been happening scares the shit out of the mind. Because the mind gets used to a certain construct and it's like, okay, we're safe, we can survive this, like, let's just stick with this. And then your heart's like, well, I want to go over here. And it's like, fuck over there. That, we don't know what's going to happen over there. We could die over there. We could fall off the face of the earth. We could go bankrupt. We can whatever, right? Like all the things that it is sending. And all that does is just keeps you stuck and on the wrong path. Because now you're on mind path instead of heart path, soul path. And so the thing that shifts people out is having to take decisive action in the moment from the heart's desire. If you let that moment, that sliver moment of opening pass, you lost it. You lost it. And you're automatically back in default. And what I've noticed is in the last few months, I've been having conversations with people. And here's a fact. This is not my opinion. Like, I'm telling you, statistically fact. People that do not take action at the end of that call, 99.99999% of them don't take action. Every single person who's like, you know what, let me think about it, or okay, I got to figure this out or that out, they never do. I don't hear back from them. And like, I don't chase people. When you're ready, you take the jump. Like, I don't chase people. I don't hound people. I'm clear. Whoever's supposed to be here is supposed to be here. And what I notice is people go to mind, they buy the story, and then it doesn't matter what they tell me or how motivated they are or how excited they are or how in touch they just became with their soul. 99.99999% of those that have this incredible opening and incredible conversation never take action because they miss that sliding door moment. And on the flip side, the ones that do take action, with mind being scared, with all of that stuff, the ones that do take action, what always happens is I hear from 2 weeks, a month, whatever it is, oh my God, my boss just gave me a raise. Oh my God, this huge thing that I've been waiting for just happened. Oh my God, this house that couldn't sell all of a sudden sold. Oh my God, da 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 da. Like without fail. Without fail. And I say this all the time. I have no fucking clue why or how. I mean, I know why, but I don't have a fucking clue of how it works. I really don't. Like, I don't know why when we do these things, this is like, I don't know. I don't know the sequence of it. I just know it works. Like unequivocally, it works. And so if you're someone who knows your heart's path and it is talking louder and louder, and if what's stopping you is all your bullshit made up by mind reasons why you can't have it, you have created a man-made prison. You created it. You have the key and you lock yourself in there and you sit in there and you're the one waiting inside the prison for someone to come and save you. But you're the only one that got the key. No one's coming to save you. There's no cavalry coming. There's no magical book that's going to unlock this thing. None of it. And the reason people in personal development keep going from the next one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing is because you have magical thinking in that mind. It is not grounded in reality. It is fully grounded in delusion. And that delusional mind will keep you stuck as long as you buy the delusions that it is selling you. It will never get on board with what you want, ever. It is good for what it's good for. And that is linear thinking,
planning,
figuring some shit out. That's it. That's what it does.
Assessing danger.
But like your heart, whether it's a passion to make a difference, whether it's a desire to start a new career, whether it is, intimacy and relationship, whatever it might be, all of that stuff you don't have today because the mind has created a life for you that is protecting you from having those things because in the past, the not getting them has created ruptures and traumas. So guess what? In order to have what you want, it doesn't come knocking on the door magically. And he's like, Alicia, I know you've been waiting so patiently for the last 55 years, really wanting and hoping and praying. And I have come here to deliver all these things that you have wanted. Here you go. No. In order for you to actually have the experience that your soul came here to have, you get to go through, and I mean really go through, all the shit that has stopped you from having that. There's no bestowing upon you. There is nothing in life, like whether you watch sports or, these authors or chefs or whomever, that all of a sudden woke up on a Tuesday and we're like, oh my God, I'm just so gifted. Look at me. Look at all the things that I can do. No, they fucking went to war day in, day out and figured out and like chopped their fingers and broke bones and blah, 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 blah. All to get to where they are today. And trust me, they didn't wake up every single day and were like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is the best day of my life. I get to work on this thing. Fuck that. That's why they surround themselves with people who are going to put them in that environment no matter what. Because every single person that has succeeded in life has wanted to quit about 1 million times. No shit. Like Look, Guy and I have been through the ringer over the last 20 plus years. And running the business, like, even more so. You know how many times we want to just fucking throw in the towel and be like, fuck this. But you know what? My soul would scream. It would scream. And it would figure out a way to put me back into, you know, something which is my soul's desire, which is to make a difference for humanity. I don't care how it looks, what it looks like. Honestly, I don't care. But I will do that till the day I die. And knowing that and fully putting myself on that path, it doesn't matter what shows up. I know it's part of the game. I know it's literally here to like chip away what's not supposed to, quote unquote, be in my way, right? But like, in order for that to happen, it first has to be highlighted. And when you see shit that scares you or you don't like inside yourself, guess what? We all have protection mechanisms. Some of us run the other way. Some of us bury ourselves deep within. Some of us hide. Some of us get needy. Whatever it is, like, we all have it. And that's what we get to go through. And to me, it's like, on your deathbed, if you knew you had a week to live, 6 months to live, a year to live, whatever the fuck it is, would you let the same excuses that you have let stop you day in, day out for the last God knows how many decades? If you knew you had a year to live, how would you live your life differently? Would you still buy the same bullshit things that you buy? I mean, like, mentally, like the programs and ideas, like, would you buy that? Would you still be waiting on the sideline for some magical thing to happen so you can actually start living the life that you actually want? Or, no matter how big or small, would you begin to take decisive action? And in that moment, use that sliding door, that little sliver of opening, and walk right through it.
You got to have the ego's got to have a moment of weakness for you to have a moment of strength.
Yeah. And like, if you don't use those opportunities,
it'll find a way to trap you again.
Instantly. It's not even like open for more than like 3.5 minutes. It literally, like, it opens and you see it, you get really excited, and then your mind goes, no, I don't know. This is so scary. What if this? Done.
There's that old video of me from Vegas where I scream and I'm like, I'm going to take on the world. And then it's like 2 days later, I'm not going to take on the world. You remember that?
Yeah.
That's exactly what it is. You know, in the moment, you can really find it. Elon's right. And if you don't take that leap of faith, you're going to find those same excuses again. It knows how to play the game really, really, really well. And I'll just say, like, it really does seem, and I want to hear your diagnosis of all this, but it does seem that, like, you need a mirror, you know, like, I still have a lot of frustration and things that happen in my life, things that seem unfair, unjust. You know, it's so funny when you do spiritual work, no matter how many times I tell myself this work is not for self-gain in any particular way. But, like, you know, when you've served, 20,000, some odd thousand people, you're like, at some point, this should get easier, right? Like, I think I claimed my angel wings. Like, you told me about 20 years ago I did that. I'm like still waiting for the patch, whatever it is. But it's like, it's not served up that way. I had a teacher I sat with, and he's like, it's not about being happy. It's a mistake. We think life is about this joy. Life is about evolution. Life is about consciousness and this, like, procession of evolution. There are many people in this world suffering who can't even think about being happy. Like, it's just so far, right? Like, so my wife reminds me every time I'm frustrated. She's like, we're getting our lessons so easy.
Yeah. And what a privilege to have vision and eyes to be able to, like, even contemplate a soul's desire. Like, you think someone who's living on the streets or hungry or can't put a roof over their head, like, they're not fucking contemplating their soul's mission. That's what I'm saying. Like, the fact that you end up here in this community, listening to these messages, like, your soul put you here. not your mind. Your mind has nothing to do with this. So like your soul got you here. Wouldn't it be worth your time to inquire and investigate what it is that your soul is actually wanting and why you're here? Listening to us and plugging yourself into this community, it is not an accident.
Yeah. I finally got my head around what we do. It's taken me about 2 decades to articulate this, but simply put, we're an incubation and an accelerator community for healing and transformation. That's what we do, right? You can go get healing and transformation in lots of places. Elon and I don't have a monopoly on the market by any stretch of the imagination. And I'll say this, like, not all teachers are for me. There's plenty of brilliant people out there. I can't listen to them talk. I don't understand their message. I don't understand why people like them. I have my own observations, judgments, call it whatever you want to call it. And there's teachers like my heart just pours into them. There's like a deep well of connection and the work that they're bringing through. And again, I imagine that's all soul guided. Most of you guys who come back and listen to us week in and week out, especially for those of you that we know really intimately, we know, right? There's like a deep heart connection, like meeting a family member from a past life or something that you suddenly recognize. And so it's like, but that's the thing. From where I look at it today, I think it's pure insanity to try to drive this ship by yourself. I get stuck so often in my journey. Like if I sat around and contemplated my stuckness by myself in my room, it's just a spiral down. Every time my mind says we're going to dig ourselves out, it does the exact opposite. I dig deeper into the hole.
Yep.
And so like the way that I find the strength to like pick myself back up again, what's that line in Rocky movies, Batman movies, right? It's the same line. It's not about getting hit. We all get hit. We all fall down, right? The real strength is in finding the strength to get back up. And there are times where I'm like, I don't want to get back up. I actually do want to just lay here, turn into a puddle and be like, it's okay. You could take me now. Like I don't want to go beyond this experience anymore. I've seen this too many times. It's too challenging. I'm exhausted. I'm like, I'm 40 years old. Are we still doing this shit? I'm like, I thought we'd be beyond this by now. But here's the thing, right? At the end of the day, this all sounds really negative, and it's not, because at the end of the day, it's like the work is that I don't get stuck in these things and they don't impede and destroy my life like they used to. It used to succumb me. It used to be the water that I swam in. I couldn't even identify that I had gotten in the water. It was the air I breathed. It was the water that I swam in. I was just watching these physicists talk because I watch a lot of nerdy shit online. And they're saying like, we don't really understand the universe. 99% dark matter. They call it dark matter because they don't know what it is. And the whole of the entire cosmos is swimming in an energy that we can't identify. And I think to myself, same for fish, same for us with air. We can't see it, but it has a tremendous impact on the quality of our lives, because if you take away the air, the quality of your life is going to go away pretty fucking quick. And so it's like, if you cannot identify the water that you're swimming in and you think this is the only water, that's the crazy part about humanity to me and the way that consciousness, or at least our consciousness, works. I used to think that you need to take psychedelics to experience the multidimensional nature of the brain. And to some extent, that's true. And for those of you who have done those explorations, good Lord Almighty, right? But it's like the fact that we have the capacity for that, it should already be so goddamn engaging as to explore, why is the brain able to do these things at all? Why are we able to tap into seemingly alternate dimensions? Okay. But then you come back out of that experience and you're like, oh, back in this dimension. And there's some truth to that. Having said that, though, I now realize that as I explore my own inner consciousness more, that when you're listening to the heart has its own dimension.
Yeah.
When you're listening to the egoic brain, that has its own dimension. And there is, by the way, a brain, call it that, a mind, let's say mind is more accurate than brain, a mind that has clarity. Like a clear mind. Okay. And I'll say this, when I find that place, it's less of a thought and more of a texture. Because if thoughts are involved, the thoughts of really as far as I can tell, for the most part, maybe with some exception, are coming from worried conditioning, survival-based conditioning. And that's pretty much it. All the judgments you have about yourself and about other people, survival. All the fear and worry and thoughts that we have, survival. And so it's built stories around an experience that it's having to try to explain to itself what's going on. None of which, by the way, probably has much thread of reality to it. Because we already more or less know that the brain is running on autopilot 95% of the time, right? So then we have that autopilot. Then we have what people call the subconscious or unconscious part. It's its own dimension. Pretty much the dimension, by the way, that will determine the quality of your as-lived life is the part of you that you're not even aware or conscious of, which is also wildly insane to think about, right? That it's like the quality of my life is based on the aspect of myself that I don't even really have access to most of the time, unless I sit and become super hyper present. And then I'm like, oh, it's afraid, or it's feeling and it's expressing, it's this, doing that. And that's what the intuitive mind is all about, by the way. It's to get to the part of you that Elon's talking about, which is the intuitive part that doesn't take and weigh every course and action in your life through the lens of the conditioning that you were given. It just says, what feels good here? Let's do that. And often what feels good here, then that dimension of the mind that's worried about everything will step in and say, I don't know that dimension. And if you take me there, I don't have programs to run for you. That scares the shit out of me. So let me do all the things that pulls you back into the experience that I'm willing to navigate inside of. And that's where most of us live. And so if you're dealing with anger or, judgment or whatever it is, like those are the tools that you've used to keep yourself in an invisible prison that this mind created. It's probably not what you want, but that's what it's doing. Now, here's the part I want to offer. If you cannot befriend this aspect of yourself, you will be in that prison forever.
Exactly.
You will never see. You won't even know the prison. You think you need to become stronger than the mind, because I tried to do that. I try to outwork it. I try to outthink it. I try to out visualize it. I try to outmanage it. Oh, I'll just watch you like a fucking hawk. I really had this experience. Like I live with the devil within me. I gotta watch this devil, because if I don't watch it every moment of every day, it's going to get out of control. And by the way, we did not grow up with any context of the devil, but I'm using that as a word. Hopefully you guys can relate to, and it could relate to anything, the negative aspect of myself, because as much as my lessons have been easy internally, maybe you feel this way too. My lessons don't feel easy. I always have had, as far as I can tell, from as little as I can remember, like a real storm brewing inside of me. Depression, sadness, heavy judgments, physical abuse towards myself, like lots of stuff like that. And so yeah, okay, maybe the external circumstances didn't make sense as to why that was going on, but did I care? Does the person going through that care? Does a person in depression care that the external, they have $1 billion in the bank, but they're feeling like absolute dog shit all the time? They don't care, right? That's the experience you're having. And so look, here's what Elon and I have learned over the years. You got to honor people. You got to honor yourself and people's experiences internally. It's very easy to judge somebody. Oh, look at them. They have everything. Why are they so upset? You don't know, right? You really don't know what's going on internally for somebody. And in the same token, that honoring is something that we all need to learn, get to learn about how we treat ourselves internally. Because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but when we go to war, we end up in trench warfare. Nothing moves. War is not a good energy for movement. War is a good energy for keeping everything exactly the same as it is. And it's why we feel the way, I think one of the reasons we feel, besides violence and death and all the other things that we unfortunately are aware of in war times, is that we also know it doesn't change anything. So this exercise is done. People are hurt or worse. And then we just come back to exactly where we were before it all began. Nothing has changed. Nothing has solved. Nothing has resolved. And so in the same token, watch yourself inside. If you are at war with yourself, the illusion is that it's going to change something. And the reality that can come way down the road and the pitfall that you're in is that it's not going to change anything at all. It's going to keep you stuck in entrenched warfare with where you're at. the courageous response is to love every part that you deem unworthy, that you deem unlovable, that you deem not acceptable. And I'm telling you, if you really can't begin there, then the quality and the journey of your healing has yet to begin even. You may have become an extremely aware person, and thank you for doing that if that's the work you've done. And there is a stage and a part in our development that I do believe it's important to watch. Just watch the mind, try to even manage the mind if you want to. But like, I'm just trying to give you a little break here because I did that for almost 15 years. And I'm telling you, I did not get out of any traps.
Yeah.
I had the illusion of becoming so aware and powerful, but then I would also judge myself when I would let it slip. And slip I often did, or you pretend that you're not slipping and that you're some like all powerful, all knowledgeable person. And you see this a lot in the spiritual communities or like knowledgeable, wisdom, wise people. It is the humble, wise person that just recognizes, I'm just going to be imperfect the rest of my life. And I got to stop aiming for this weird thing that we call perfection, or to try to be happy all the time, or to try to have the answers all the time. It takes courage to say, I don't know. Why don't we sit with that and see what happens?
Yep.
Let's just see and get curious about what's going to arise if we just get curious and just let it be. And that act of courage is where most people have not let themselves be. It's very rare that I've met a person who because they don't see it as an act of courage, they see it as an act of defeat. Oh, I'll just succumb to it. I'll let it take me. You've never done that before. You've wallowed in it. I've wallowed in it. I've sat in it. I've cried about it. I pouted about it. I kicked and screamed about it. I've done lots of different things with it about it. I want it to go away. I don't want this experience anymore, and I'm getting emotional just thinking about that because it lingers, right? But it's like the courage is don't do anything. Just watch, be here with somebody and support in awareness. And let's see what unfolds when we stop poking the bear, when we stop messing with this thing, and let's see if it changes on its own. And here's the magical part is it does. But learning to not meddle, learning to not do that is a real skill. And I'm not talking about like a beginner skill. That is a advanced skill. It's an extremely wise human being that learns to not react to the situation at hand and to just let it move through and unfold and trust that whatever's happening is in divine accordance and moving to your highest and best experience. And if I let it be, that's why I say the word incubation and accelerator, because the incubation part is sitting in the community and being held, sitting in the work and allowing it to hold you. The accelerator part is when you stop acting like a fucking lunatic, like a schizophrenic, basically, which is what we all are kind of trapped in, is this, mental psychosis, schizophrenia type of experience that is on this planet at this time. And learning how to just kind of, I'm doing it physically, but I'm actually saying like sit back with your awareness and just allow for it to unfold. And then whatever this thing that we call God is seems to arrive in that space and work its magic. And that's why when Elon says, when you have this little gap and you take the action, and even though the mind is afraid, and it is afraid, because every time it has to jump to something it's never done before, fear is just there waiting for you. But somehow in that space, that this magic of manifestation or godliness or whatever you want to call it, the divine nature of the universe, arrives and just does this synchronistic dance that, by the way, we can see all around us in nature. And yesterday the whole world got to see, if you took the time to watch, and this dance of our moon and our sun and our planet Earth, which doesn't even, again, make any sense, and how it's all organized and perfect. And, this magical little thing happens, but like, that's how it's organized. And so to take advantage of that organizational energy does require faith. It really requires, the action is no action. The healing is, I want to heal, but then I no attachment to it. That's I forgive, but then I do nothing. Like there's nothing to do after it. It's just the intention put forth, and then nothing required of you at all after that. And that really, really does take something to get there, in my opinion.
Yeah. So look, at the end of the day, here's hopefully what I want to leave you with. Like, You are an active participant in your own search and your own movement of finding soul's purpose, directing soul's purpose, and getting on to the plan of soul's purpose. No one's going to do that for you. Especially like, anyone that talks to me, like, I don't convince people, I don't coerce people, I don't believe in that. Like, because the people that I want to work with and Guy want to work with are people who are highly dedicated and committed to finding that and living that truth.
Yeah.
I don't like it's the same reason that, back in like Guy and I used to be in this program, and, basically they tasked me with getting other people to do these, whatever, to get candidated to become like a leader, like a introduction leader. And I would sit and talk to people, and, like, they wouldn't move off their ass, and the coaches and trainers would be like, well, it's your job to help them get to that finish line. And I was like, no, that's not my fucking job. I didn't sign up for that. I know that you want me to, but like, that's not my job. I'm not their parent. I'm not a drill sergeant. I'm none of those things. We're here to show you a easy, replicatable path and process to get this stuff done. What that journey on that path and process looks like for you, I couldn't even venture a guess. I don't know what you've done in the past. I don't know what upbringing you've had. I don't know what things you're going to witness and work through and blah, blah, blah. What I can promise is that, one, you'll never be on your own ever again when you participate in this work. And B, for the first time ever, you're going to stop being on an incessant hunt and search for answers outside of yourself. All the books that you're reading, all the trainings that you watch, all the digital products that you buy, you will cease to buy and invest in all of them. Because what you will realize the second that you can tap into your own heart's desire and your own soul purpose, that will guide you. That will inform you. That will inspire you. Not me, not Guy, not any other teacher. And if you're out there still looking for the magical book or video or concept or teacher, you're going to be out there for a long time. They do not exist. And if you know that that's you, it's like, oh, you get really excited. Oh my God, I found them. You dive in. 6 months later, a year later, whatever it is, like, okay, next, you're the only game in town. Invest your time, your energy, your money in learning how to uncover this. Mm-hmm. Everything else is just noise, honestly. Like, it's just noise. It's musings of someone sitting in some place in their lives that they view life through a certain lens. That's it. But until that becomes your experience, it's irrelevant. How many of you guys heard this line time and time and time again? The only way out is through. You probably heard it a million times in like a million different books, right? The only way out is through. Here's the thing. You don't actually know what the experience of through is. Your mind doesn't go through. It cannot go through. It doesn't want to go through. So it dances around, but it cannot go through. Going through, you cannot do on your own. It is too painful to go through on your own. It just is. I tried very, very dedicatedly for 15 plus years. Yeah. It does not work. You can touch it, you can see it, you can dance around it. You cannot go through those things because your mind, it's like an electrified fence.
Yeah.
It touches it, it becomes too much, and it's like zap, and you're out. And you're like, oh, I was so close. Maybe I was just missing the right, code, blah, blah, blah. No, you weren't. You were just missing sitting with someone, a practitioner who can sit with you in that space, tracking your system, highlighting things for you that allows you to rest into that and feel safe for the first time ever as you're moving through it. It's the only way.
I actually get a lot of solace from that these days. Like, it's too much pressure to do anything on your own, to be honest.
Oh my God.
Raising children on your own, getting yourself in health and anything else. Like, we all hit walls. We have a limited amount of energy. We have a limited amount of time. And it's like, we exasperate ourselves running in circles, trying to figure stuff out internally because we haven't dealt with our inner shame or our ability to ask for support anymore. But I find it really beautiful that it requires other human beings to be around you to have transformative and healing experiences. And I don't think there's a shame to be given there, because again, I say this all the time, but as biological social creatures, we're predisposed to building bonds and being around each other and relying on relationships constantly to bring us joy, to make us laugh, to whatever, right? To just feel seen. And so understanding, look, you might have great relationships in your life. And those relationships may not nurture your development and your healing, if that's what you desire. Because oftentimes the relationships we're in are part of a mechanism that keeps us exactly where we are. Those people reflect back to you the things that you've said to them, which is, I don't believe in myself. Oh, you don't believe in yourself, right? And so there's this kind of loop. And so sometimes we need a looky-loo, outside of that perspective, and to join a community that's dedicated to something. If I want to read a lot of sci-fi books, for example, we started to full circle this thing, I should join a community of people who read sci-fi books together and then meet and talk about it. And I promise you, I will get all these incredible vantage points and philosophical opinions about what the author wrote and what they were thinking at the time. And I'd be like, whoa, I never thought of that when I was reading that book. I was so focused on this, right? Because that's what the mind does. It focuses on what it likes. And it's like, look, if I want to be an amazing artist, I probably need to go play with other guitarists or other pianists and learn from them and their perspectives and how they do things in new ways, right? And so it's the same thing. A lot of us, here's the thing, we don't have a lot of access to healing and transformative communities on the planet. They exist if you go look for them, right? But it's not to really be nurtured is to be part of a community. Sometimes I say that and I'm worried that people think we've started a cult or something, but the point here is that at the end of the day, it's just you just need people, and you need people who are committed to what you're committed to and inquiring about the things that you're inquiring about, and have those curiosities. And if the people around you are not predisposed to that, certainly don't leave those people. That would be silly. If you enjoy those relationships, have at it, enjoy. But also be part of a community of people who are committed and dedicated to what you're committed to, so you can get the appropriate loving feedback that is, in my opinion, a requirement to begin to build a certain type of faith and belief in what you're doing. I say this all the time when we train, right? And again, I want to offer Intuitive Mind Live is coming up here in 11 days from today. So depending on when you listen to the recording, it's April 20th and 21st. But there's always one coming up. Even if you hear this much, much later, you can still buy a ticket. Tickets come with course recordings. It comes with a ticket and a companion ticket. So you can give it to someone in your life if you want to do that. Or you can just send this to them and say, hey, you should join this program. These two knuckleheads are running these cool incubator and accelerator transformational programs. And then there's other opportunities here, but I'll leave it at that. And that, to me, that community structure, getting that support, and this is what I want to say, was that when you're having breakthrough experiences and you go into a pre-existing environment, community that you're in, family, friends, colleagues, whatever, and they know you a certain way, and you say something that's unexpected, it's rarely met with, they're not quite sure how to take it, especially when you're saying something really big. You're I'm not going to do that anymore. Hey, I know maybe we drink all the time, but I'm not going to drink anymore. You know, they're like, what? So what's going to happen? No more wine bars? Like, yeah, whatever it is, right? I'm making fun of it, but it could be something like really deep, like, you know, stuff like that. And a lot of times when we share from that place, it's vulnerable and extremely scary to share from that. It takes some courage to do that, and a muscle you get to build on this journey, and how to communicate really what's in your heart and what's clear there. And it's still something I find edges to constantly in my life. But there's an experience that's had there that when you say something like that and it's not fully received by the people around you, that actually feels like a heartbreak. And that heartbreak can take you back quite a ways, because suddenly you're like really gung-ho about what you're doing. Elon and I have worked with many entrepreneurs over the years. It is rare when somebody starts a business that the people in their life are like, go get them. Mm-hmm. They're like, what are you doing? You're going to lose all your money. Because they would never do that. They don't have the courage to do that, to step out there, right? But inside of that community of entrepreneurs, everyone is fucking balls to the wall, ready to go. Let's learn, let's do it. And so when you're in that environment, there's juice for you. You're like, oh, thank you so much. And people are reflecting back to you that you're working hard and going through the things that are necessary. And don't worry, just keep going. And like 3, 4, 6 months from now, you're not going to believe how much headway will have made. And that's the power of community. So when you rely on yourself, on a book, on a video, and then you go back into the community, your community, and you try to teach them something new or reveal something about yourself, and it's not received, it's very painful. It's a lot less painful when you've already built that muscle and now you know yourself. I'm a great entrepreneur. I'm hyper committed to my growth. It doesn't even faze you anymore what other people think or how they do things anymore. And for a lot of people, we've never had that experience yet. And again, that's the power of joining a community that's in alignment and aligned with the desires that you want to have. And so that's what all these programs are for. And so Intuitive Mind, right, is coming up. Amazing experience. We'd love to have you there. We'd love to have your friends, family, colleagues. Please share this work. You know, if you're getting value from this work, don't be afraid to share this work. You can be like, I really, really enjoy these two guys. Go listen to their podcast. You know, come to this event. I promise you it's going to be absolutely life-changing. And when Elon and I were, I'll say this and then we'll close out. When Elon and I were in like, you know, we used to be part of I don't want to promote them openly, but we were part of a school for like 12 years. And Elon and I, no joke, were top recruiters. Okay. Now, we were not made to be recruiters. No one ever forced us to be recruiters, nothing like that. But we were fucking amazing at getting people to get into these programs. I mean, by the hundreds, probably well over 1,000 people Elon and I recruited. If this was a network marketing company, we would have done extremely well. But to date, Elon and I have received no toasters, no robes, and no slippers because there was nothing there to reward you for bringing people in. We did it simply because the level of transformation that we were experiencing and people who we brought in and watched go through these experiences were having like just life-altering experiences. And so we got to the point where we were so confident in handing over someone in our lives to this work, and that without a doubt it was going to have a positive impact on them, that we didn't even guess it. We didn't even second guess anymore. Because at first you're like, how is this going to look at if they don't have a good experience? And so we always would make an offer to people. We would say, if you don't have an unbelievable transformative experience, I will pay for the ticket myself. Do you know how many people took us up on that offer in 12 years? Zero. And it also came with us confidently talking about the quality of the work that was being done. And so for a lot of you guys, you've been in our ethos for a long time. Maybe you share, maybe you don't. I don't know. But sometimes it can feel weird to share about this kind of stuff because we make it weird. And sharing about this stuff is not weird. It's like telling someone you saw a great movie, like we shared about the book today and 3 Body Problem. That's it. We're not forcing you to do it. We're not asking you to read it. We're having a great experience reading this book, watching this show. And we're saying there's an amazing experience here. If you want to have it, have at it. And that's how we always invited people. We're like, there's this amazing experience that's going to change your life. Not a great movie. It's like literally you will not be the same person 3 days from now. Change your life. Guaranteed. And I hope you guys recognize that what we do here as a community has that same impact. We've never seen anybody do this work in a committed fashion and not have massive life-altering breakthroughs. I mean, like never the same again, never have the same relationships again, alter their career, different relationship to money, different relationship to health, everything that matters to a human life gets transformed through the power of this work. Not because Elon and I are special, but through the power of this work that we're sharing with you, that we're just gracefully handing down what was handed to us. But it requires